only a problem of a technical improvement of using solar collectors or to use wind energy. It was a much more sophisticated thinking which was put in place. Thinking about the idea of a cycle, energetic cycle, which was going from, extended from the problem of energy to the idea of food production and waste recycling. This is a project by Farrell Lowndes, is an integral urban house. Or also, like Reynolds, introducing a reflection on the idea of waste and second use of material, which was an anticipation of the reflection that we have today about the embedded energy in the building. There is also another point that I think is very important, that we have the idea that and it is true that most of these projects, they were, how can I say, situated in a kind of idyllic rural settings, and they aspired, at least in North America, to a total physical energy and social autonomy. But they were not the only ones. They were very interesting projects addressing the issues of energy at the urban level, just not to mention some European projects, for example, by Hungers, but also in the North America, for example, in New York. We have this kind of project for the 11th Street, East Side, in which there were, of course, a small intervention with solar panels and wind energy, but the real point was that it started to introduce the concept of the grid, not as a system to distribute energy from a central source, but as based on an exchange of energy in between the different sources. And they won a legal battle in order to assert this kind of right. And many of those studies, they were already asserting addressing the themes of residential areas, urban planning and transportation, question of social character, which, let me say, sometimes they seem foreign to most of contemporary reflection in architecture and urban design. So they were showing an ability to understand in a much larger, broad, and strategic way some of the issues that we are facing today. Let's go back. I would like to close with some points that I would like to bring to your attention. Some other points which we can learn from that. First point is about the incremental improvement and the paradox about that. If we analyze the combined use of energy today, according to some analysis both in North America and Europe, if you combine building, traffic generated by their use, and so on, some statistics, they say that they are responsible for 75% of energy consumption. It's clear that any improvement could be very significant. We can have better efficiency in the car. We can have better performance in washing machine. It's perfect. We can insulate building. That is perfect. But because of this percentage, which could be questioned, of course, but anyway is a large amount of the energy consumption and also significantly contribution to the pollution, anyway, I think that small improvements, they are significant, they are necessary, but they are not sufficient. And there is a problem to place in a proper context each of these interventions. I let Thomas Howard to speak about the LEED problem, the LEED certification problem. But I just want to bring to you attention to a parking garage in Santa Monica, which was the first kind of zero-emission parking garage in California. These six stories, 882 car parking in the Civic Center had photovoltaic roof panels, storm drain water treatment system, recycled construction materials, and energy-efficient mechanical system. Now, I don't want to question now the idea of cars in Los Angeles and so on. I just want to bring to your attention that in Switzerland, new regulation, they are reducing the number of car parking for any office building in order to develop a total different kind of policy. So there is always a problem to put a certain objective and achievement in a larger frame. You can demonstrate whatever you want about buildings or about sustainable issues. It depends which are the factors you take in consideration. The second point that I think is a good lesson again from that is the problem of the needs. If, sorry, too fast. If we go to the concept of sustainability, we see, as defined by the Brundtland Commission in 1987, we see that is based on the idea of needs. What is saying the Brundtland Commission? That meeting the needs of the present while allowing future generations to meet their own needs. So this term need is very undefined. Even the architectural graphic standard manual is questioning this kind of use of the word needs, saying that it's impossible to quantify this kind of thing. Well, a few months before the 1973 oil crisis in the spring, Ivan Illich wrote an article for Le Monde in which he addressed the issue of the oil crisis, energy crisis, sorry, and the problem of needs. And he was questioning our society energy addiction. He was questioning the fact that even if non-polluting power were feasible and abundant, the use of energy on a massive scale acts on society like a drug. So I don't say that this is an answer, but there was already a very good question about that. How also we wanted to face the contemporary problem of sustainable, for example, development? Well, the attitude very often is quite a questionable one. Is what I call coffee without caffeine. It's coming from Zizek, when he described our contemporary attitude and our lifestyle, in which, in a certain way, we can describe that a kind of efforts that we are making in order to maintain our lifestyle, only purged of its most inappropriate or offensive, yet often essential, aspects. So, and I'm quoting now, we now have coffee without caffeine, cream without fat, beer without alcohol, politics as the art of expert administration, that is, as politics without politics. So our goal is very simple. Enjoy all the advantages without facing the inevitable negative consequences. Or, even worse, find somewhere else to dump them on, and that is what we often do. So, I think that this idea of the clean energy is sometimes used in this kind of fashion. Last point. In 1997, British Petroleum became the first oil company to recognize the existence of climate change and to invest in renewable sources of energy. And of course, you know that in 2000 there was an incredible branding campaign which went under the idea of Beyond Petroleum, BP. And of course, all of the environmental groups have criticized BP for this kind of